Hi guys, welcome to the WindMode channel. My name is Bart and today I wanted to share with you my first thoughts on this new F-One Strike QuadX. So I've had the Strike for a few weeks now, had some sessions on it, and I thought it would be a good moment to shoot a video. I'm a little bit of a gear nut, so I like scouring around YouTube and the internet to find all the information I can get on all the new gear. But for me that information is never enough. So I decided why not start my own YouTube channel and shoot a video to help others out there find what they want to know. So for the Strike QuadX I opted for the 4.5. I did that on advice of the local F1 crew. Normally I'm on a 5 meter, I'm 100 kilos, so a little bit on the heavy side. The other wings I own is a V3 Strike, is the previous Strike I actually owned. I did ride the V4 and the V5. And I also ride the Origin wings. So I use this wing in a variety of sessions. 10 to 15 knots, very light, lighter than I would go out with, especially with the 4.5. All the way up to 25 knots, gusting into the 40s. So very, very hard gusts. And also perfectly powered sessions, 18 to 25 knots. All of these sessions were with the Eagle 1090 V2 on the new ultra high modulus 14mm mast or the Skate 750. Full disclosure, I did do some product development work with F1 in the past. I do get my gear at a discount. They didn't ask me to start this YouTube channel or shoot this video, and my thoughts are entirely my own. So let's get into it. This is the new Strike. So the Strike is F1's premium high performance free ride offering. So if you want to go fast, if you want to free race, if you want to free ride, do some aggressive riding. If you want to do freestyle, if you want to jump high, or if you just want a very versatile wing, this is the wing to get from F1. For this year they offered it in the QuadX material and also in the regular Dacron material. And this V6 Strike still has that same Strike DNA, right? So except maybe amplified compared to the Strike of a few years ago. What's new for this year, like I said, is this QuadX fabric. So previous year F1 used some Aluula in their wings, which is the golden shiny fabric. Aluula is very stiff, it's very light, but it's also very expensive and not as durable. So they only use little bits of it to keep the wing relatively affordable. And then they decided to come up with a new material, which is this QuadX material, which is similar, it's also very, very stiff. It's not as light, but still light, and because they have to use less of it due to the way it's stitched, the resulting wing is still very, very light. But it has some pluses, that it's more durable and it's less expensive. So for the same price as the Aluula Strike of last year, which only used some Aluula, they could now make the full airframe out of this QuadX material, and you feel it. This wing is stiff. So staying on the topic of materials, what I really like about this wing is the way they're using thicker canopy material here close to the center strut and all along the trailing edge. So this is high wear areas, it's high stretch areas as well. So having a little bit thicker material here means that the wing is going to last longer, which we all like, right? And the third thing I noticed, which is different from last year's Strikes, is that they added a swivel to the leash, which I think is a really great addition. So the swivel means that if you do a lot of tacks or jibes, you don't get tangled in your leash anymore. Then we come to the section you all really want to know about. How does it feel on the water? And like I said, I'm comparing this to my V3 Strike and my Origin wings. My sessions on the V4 and the V5 were short, so take that into consideration when listening to what I have to say. The first thing I noticed when riding this thing is how consistent the power delivery is. So it has a very consistent pull, whether it's very light, like I said, 10 to 15 knots, perfectly powered or overpowered. You know, the pull is just there and it's not overpowering, it's pulling you forward, but it doesn't change drastically if the wind range is different or the angle you're riding at is different or the speed is different. So I think that's a really cool feature that they've managed to make it this consistent feeling. Also the pressure point, I think because of the stiffness, the pressure point really doesn't move, not even when it's gusting those high 40s. Which means, yes, you get a lot of power, you get a lot of pull in those gusts, right? But no unpredictable pull in the sense that it pulls in a different direction than you think it would. The second thing I really noticed is coming out of turns, this thing has traction. So I think this is due to the thicker leading edge that I'm used to, at least, giving it a very forgiving sheeting angle. So you come out of a tack or a jibe and you're not ideally positioned immediately. And this thing, even if you're not ideally positioned, it starts pulling, which means that it's very easy to tack as well. So you come out of the tack and it really can help you pull around. If you're learning your tacks, this is a great wing for that. The third thing I was really amazed by, this wing you can easily ride half a meter smaller than the V4, maybe also the V5. But especially you can ride this one a meter smaller than the V3 Strike. So that's a really, really big difference. Like I said, I took this out in 10 to 15 knots with my 100 kilos. I was on a 410 90 liter board with this new Eagle V2. And I got one good gust, like 50 knots, pumped it up. And I had no issue flying around for 1.5 hours in 10 knot lulls. It just keeps pulling this wing. So even if the wind dies down, it just keeps you pulling forward and forward, and you don't have to stop. And the combination of getting that quick power back during the turns and the glide of this Eagle 1090 meant that session just was really, really fun. I didn't expect it, honestly. The last thing I want to share with you is the hang time of this wing. The last session I used this in, it was 18 to 25 knots, perfectly powered, and I did some jumping, a lot of jumping. And this thing, compared to my previous wings, it just goes up, you know, way higher than my previous wing for the same effort. And it just stays there as well. You stay hanging there up in the air, like, when am I going to come down? I finally understand how Chris McDonald shoots off the screen in the promotional material, you know. So that's really a big difference in feel. So if you're a jumper, this thing will take you to the moon. Going into the next bit, I think the room for improvement is becoming smaller and smaller over time. But one thing I think is the very stiff feel. So like I said, it is a very stiff material. You pump it up to a really high pressure. The pressure point doesn't shift, but it is a very direct wing. So if that 40 knot gust comes in, you feel it, you get yanked forward, you know. And if you're good, if you're an advanced rider, or if you just really like that feel, then this is a perfect wing for you. If you're a beginner, or you prefer the softer feel, you might get overwhelmed by how stiff this wing is. And I would recommend looking at, for example, the Origin or the darker version of the Strike. And the second thing I don't really like, I had to look very closely to find things I didn't really like, but the second thing I didn't really like was that the QuadX material is white. So I start my sessions from a pier, a pier with wooden planks, and those planks, they get dirty. So even before I was out on my first session, I put this thing on the ground to strap on my leash of my board, and then I picked it up and there were already some brown scuff marks all over. You know, so for a next version of this Strike, I would like it if they used, I don't know, a black or a dark blue version of the same material. To finish off, like, who is this for? I think if you're an advanced freerider, you like to jump, you like to race, you want to freestyle. This thing has a little bit smaller wingspan as well than the older Strike. So if you want to freestyle, this thing will turn and swivel if you do the aerial tricks. This thing is for you. Intermediate to advanced riders, don't look any further. This is your wing. If you're purely focused on wave riding or downwinding, you might want to look into the swing or the origin instead. The origin is a great wing for wave riding. This thing is also good wave riding, like I said, it's all round, but it doesn't sit as nicely flagged. So if you flag this out, it's a little bit more lively. So if your main focus is, you know, sitting on that wave, you don't or you care less about the upwind performance, go for a swing or an origin. And also if you're a beginner or a more advanced rider who just prefers that softer feel, definitely look at the origin or the F-One Strike. They are a lot less direct, especially the origin, it's a lot less direct, it's that soft feel that you're used to, and it's just comfortable riding, you know. This one wants to go. If you're after comfortable riding, get an origin. That was it for my first impressions of this new Strike. I will be doing a full review in the future once I've had some more time on it. I will also be reviewing the 2026 foils, so this eagle, the new mast, and also the new skate. I'll also be doing tips and tricks videos and maybe even some beginner tutorials. I'm thinking of putting those together. And I also want to cover some other foil sports. So I do kite foiling as well, windsurf foiling, and I'm thinking of looking into dog starting as well. If you don't want to miss it, like, subscribe, and because this is my first video, you know, I'm interested in your feedback. Let me know in the comments what you thought. See you later.